Hola amigos, somos los más fuertes. Estamos aquí en el gimnasio con KAI GREENE, esta gran persona tan admirable para nosotros y tan reconocida a nivel mundial. Estamos muy dichosos de tenerlo aquí con nosotros. Hello KAI GREENE, how are you?
Hey, what's up? What's up? What are you doing?
We're very happy, so let's get started. We're gonna start with some questions. The first one is, which is the ultimate goal of a bodybuilder?
Well, what is the ultimate goal of a bodybuilder? I think the ultimate goal of a bodybuilder is development, self-development.
Okay, let's get to the next one. Which are the basic elements that every bodybuilder has to have besides a well-constructed body?
Let's see, what is the basic element? Well, I guess if I were expected to give the best answer I could, let me also say I'm nervous right now, just a little bit. I'm like nervous.
Don't worry, I am too.
But okay, now that we've identified the elephant in the room, I think the most basic element that a bodybuilder would need to have is discipline.
Yeah, of course.
Discipline.
Okay. How do you set your goals and commit to them?
Well, that's probably what goes back to the question before that. Discipline is what a bodybuilder, an athlete, an enterprising person needs to have, because discipline talks about a person's ability to recognize what they want to do and, more importantly, recognize their personal individual power to use it effectively towards creating the thing that they want to do or want to become. Perfect.
Where does your focus come from? What fuels it?
I think a person's focus it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. I think focus really just depends on what a person will allow to be the thoughts that they entertain regularly. It's one thing to think a thought for a moment or two and then it passes and you move on to something else. But when you think about something and you think about it again and again and again, and you allow that thought to become a continuing, reoccurring thought that you allow to rest rule or have a place of occupying your mind, then that is focus. And I think what an athlete or what a bodybuilder essentially is capable of doing is disciplining themselves to think about the things that they want to attain and think about that more than anything else. So hence focus. So that's that word, focus. Your focus, I think, comes from first identifying your personal power. Second, identifying what you want to do with that power. So wherever you want to go, recognize you have an ability to make a choice, and then, take your thoughts and fix them on the thought of what that is. Okay. And then keep it there. And don't let your mind go somewhere else, but keep it right there. And when your mind wants to go somewhere else, you use your discipline to focus it. So your focus, I believe, your focus is something that we will do naturally on our own. The difference between a bodybuilder or an athlete and just anyone else is that we use our discipline to decide what we want to focus our thinking on, and we do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Okay, let's move to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
How do you beat distractions?
Well, overcoming distractions are very, very simple. We're talking again about applying your focus. There's a lot of things that will compete for a person's concentration. The minute you decide sometimes to fix your thoughts on that camera right there, I'm not looking anywhere else, I'm going to look at that camera and only that camera. Well, immediately sometimes in life things happen where things say, well, pay attention to me. No, pay attention to me. Give me your attention. I'd like your attention too. And if you just allowed yourself to go naturally on automatic pilot, you'd look, hey, pay attention to me. You'd look over there too. Pay attention to me. I'll look over there. You know, but what a bodybuilder essentially is they decide. We recognize my ability to decide that just because you shout out over here or just because you ask for my attention here and here, I don't have to give it to you. I can decide what I will pay attention to. And now once I've decided that that is my goal, the goal to be a successful man, the goal to be a successful athlete, the goal to be a better father, the goal to be a better lover, better businessman, and so on. Now I can fix my thoughts on that direction and allow myself to go only there. So when the objects, hey, 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 I'm not looking. Why? Because I'm focused on my goal.
As simple as that. Okay. What is the most difficult thing you had to sacrifice in order to become a bodybuilder?
In order to be a bodybuilder, I don't think you have to sacrifice. The word sacrifice, I don't know if it is necessarily built into the idea of being a bodybuilder, but recognizing my personal responsibility goes a long way in now helping me exercise right thinking. For instance, as a bodybuilder, I identify that this is my goal. My goal is to improve my performance by this many points in this amount of time. Or as a bodybuilder, my goal is to increase lean body mass and decrease body fat. Or as a bodybuilder, going to the gym today, my goal is to focus on my workout and have a really good workout. Well, then when other things come and say, hey, look, Kai, instead of let's going to the gym, hey, let's go to the bar and get a few drinks. Oh, wow, you know what, Kai, there's a very pretty woman over here. And she asks you for her number and says, hey, instead of going to the gym today, why don't we go and hang out? Wow, she's really pretty. I'm thinking about it. But the truth is, because I identify myself as a bodybuilder, I'm identifying myself as a disciplined thinker, a disciplined doer. I recognize that just because things happen and opportunities come up or things ask for my attention, I don't necessarily have to give my attention. I don't have to readily surrender it to those things. I can decide what I will focus on. And in this case, going to the gym and training will be the thing that I'll focus on today. So I'll be there. You got to tune in for that if you didn't see. Yeah, so.
Okay. Now, what's the biggest pain you've ever faced in bodybuilding?
You know, I used to think that life happens after bodybuilding. So, you know, first you do the bodybuilding thing and then you do everything else. But I realized that that's not really accurate. You know, everything that you do in the course of your day, from the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night, you are essentially writing, I believe, your story. You know, in other words, the story of your life, what you will accomplish with this time that you have on this planet, what you do from the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night will serve as a record for what you thought about, what was important to you. I don't think that I have to talk about a larger pain, like to think that I have to experience pain in order to be a bodybuilder. I think to identify myself as a bodybuilder means that I recognize that my thoughts are powerful. I recognize that though there may be all kinds of other things that are powerful in this universe and on this planet, you know, I understand and recognize that I too have a power that is much more powerful than a lot of times I've been taught to give credit to. You know, We sooner talk about politics or sooner talk about situations and circumstances as being all powerful and so on, shaping the man. But James Allen says that situations and circumstances don't shape the man. They actually reveal the man to himself. I realize as a bodybuilder that I can decide what I want to do with my life. I can decide whether or not I can make my delt 2 inches bigger or smaller. I can decide whether or not I can make my arm 2 inches bigger or smaller. I have this power. This is not something that the world does to me. This is something that I do in a way of expressing what is important to me. You know, so in order to answer your question, the pain that you have to and sacrifice that may come along with bodybuilding, I don't see it that way. I see the fact that I identify myself as a bodybuilder means that I recognize that I have the ability to have influence and say over what I do with my life. I can build something positive with my actions, effort, and energy, or I can build something negative.
Yeah, very good. Since pain is a sign that the exercise is working, is it an obstacle or a motivator, and why?
Is pain an obstacle or more? I think it depends on how you look at it.
Yes.
You know, I don't know if you really have to consider it as much. I know that there's a certain amount of discomfort that comes along with expanding myself, aiming to grow. In this case, you're talking about training muscles and pain registry as a part of muscle fatigue and failure that ultimately can produce hypertrophy and, you know, allow a muscle to grow with ample amount of rest and proper nutrition. I get it. I think, though, that sometimes I need to see it a little bit more simpler than that. Obstacles are not always designed to hurt you. You know, an obstacle can be something that helps you to advance. Someone can put an obstacle in front of you or a hurdle, you know. In this case, let's say I wanted to focus on that camera there, and you turned around and put this chair that blocks my vision from the camera. Now, I could choose to see this as an obstacle, as an impediment, the chair that we've now put in between me and the camera. But if the camera would have gotten a better viewpoint vantage of me if I were up higher, and now with this chair in the way and I couldn't see directly at the camera, I chose to climb on top of the chair, thus giving the camera a much more better opportunity to view me in a much better light. Truth is, what was now the obstacle really didn't serve to hurt us at all. In fact, it helped us to advance and get a better camera shot, create a much more dynamic video footage or film footage than we probably would have ever thought of had the chair not been put, or had the obstacle not come into our realm of thinking. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't think that pain or obstacles need to be focused on as much as the goal, because ultimately if we focus on the goal, then we can find that even what was meant to be an obstacle can end up becoming an increase. It ends up becoming an assistance to doing something even better.
Okay, yeah, that's really great. If our mind is the strongest muscle, how do you build yours?
How do you build your mind? Well, you know what? I think that's one of the things that make early acceptance of a lifestyle of exercise and fitness important. because to do that talks about discovering strategies to help improve your thinking, that helps improve your mental capacity and your ability to more effectively use your mind. Your ability to concentrate can improve based on learning how to exercise. As a young man, as a boy, if somebody told me to, hey, concentrate, I didn't know what that meant. And now if you're telling me that that's supposed to be something that I do with this organ that I never really have seen before and haven't really worked on developing, I couldn't understand it. But if you asked me to do a push-up, and as it became difficult to press my body up from the floor, but I wanted to do it, so I focused, hey, I tapped into a new realm of a new realm of awareness. A new tool ability is now in the process of becoming developed. And now just learning how to concentrate my thinking and quiet down all the other things that would otherwise be competing for my attention. Does that make sense? So how do you develop your mind? Basically that's it, learning how to concentrate. First, identifying that it's my responsibility to control what I think about and how long I think about it. Not the government, not my mother, not my father, not my girlfriend. It's my job to control my head. When I start to diet, or let's say I go to the gym and I'm supposed to exercise and I need to concentrate so I don't hurt myself, but I'm looking around and I'm refusing to focus my thinking. Truth is, you may be my training partner and may care a lot about me. You may say, Kai, wait a minute, focus. But as much as you may want to help me focus, no one can do it for me. So if I don't decide to do it for myself, then that is the one thing that I will not be able to do, hence it will not get done. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So accepting a lifestyle of exercise and fitness, particularly, I mean, it's something you could do at any time in your life, but I think that in itself becomes a significant step on the road of developing your concentration and just bettering your mind.